Hi, this is a tutorial for sacristans, and I'm just going to walk through what I normally do when I get here and show you all the duties that a sacristan does. So the first thing, normally Deacon Paul will be here if it's a Sunday morning, the early Mass at 8:30, he'll be here, and in that case then the doors will be open and the lights will be turned on. But just in case they're not, we'll walk through everything. So the first thing when you come through the door is you turn on this light switch right here, and then another light switch right here. I like to make a counterclockwise circle, and for me it just keeps me more organized, just doing that circular pattern rather than kind of hopscotching around. So I turn on the lights here, these lights, and there's a light right around the corner, and there is this light right here. We then go over by the steps, and there's a light switch behind the cross. If you can reach it, turn this one on. That turns on the lights up above here. Then we'll go and we'll unlock the door. We just unlock the door on the left. So normally it's like this. This is in the lock position. To unlock it, you push it in, take your Allen wrench, put it in the hole, turn it clockwise, and then it's unlocked. So I will just, the ushers usually lock all the doors, which later on you want to go around and double check, and just in case they haven't, then you just do this in reverse. Then we go down the steps here and turn on this switch for in the basement. Back up the steps, go ahead, keep going counterclockwise, turn on the switch on the right here, which turns these lights on. And then you can also turn on this light. We'll come through the double doors here, and then you can open them up. I turn on this light switch, and then I turn on this light switch and unlock the door. I want to show you, for later on when Mass is done, the sacristan, if the ushers don't, the sacristan will open up both of these doors. And the door on the right has a locking mechanism at the top and down at the bottom, and it just opens up. And so then we open the doors all the way like this. On Saturday Masses, when we have a Saturday Mass, we'll be having confession before Mass. Now normally the confessional will be set up by Peggy ahead of time, but just in case it isn't, I'm going to show you how to set it up. So the screen is right back here next to the table. And it goes in here between the two chairs. And you just have to set it so that it balances. Then the next thing to do is to close the shades, or the blinds. After the priest is done doing confessions, most of our priests, Father Tom and Father Kevin, will remove the shade and put it, or the screen, and put it back. But if we have a guest priest, he wouldn't know what to do. So then you can just come in here, and the first thing you would do is to open the blinds up. And then just fold up the screen And now we'll go to the front of church.
Now we'll go and open the side door. This door just has a push button, and you have to pull the door really tight to close it when it is locked. I like to then check the candles to see if there's any that need to be refilled. And I'll show you in a little bit where the refills are for the candles. Whenever you cross the altar, make sure that you bow. Here is the light panel. You want to have them all up. Some of them have a dimmer switch, so you need to make sure that those are up all the way. And then here is the switch for the sound system. Now I'll go and check the books to make sure that they're on the right pages. And here it's the fourth Sunday of Advent. If it happens that you aren't exactly sure which Sunday it is, it will say on the bulletin somewhere what Sunday it is. You could also check in the Breaking Bread book. And then we go over here and we check the lectionary to make sure it's on the right page. And you just need to check the purple ribbon. Now we'll check the Book of Gospels, just to make sure that it's on the right readings. Yes, it is. In this cupboard is the key for the tabernacle. Before Mass, you need to check how many hosts are in the ciborium. This ciborium, full to the top, holds 200 hosts. So it looks like there's about 100 hosts in there right now. You might be wondering, how do you know how many hosts to put out for Mass? That's a good question. You might think, well, I could go in there and, pull them out and count them, just to be exact, because I am just guessing. There's only two people that can remove consecrated hosts from the ciborium, and that's the priest or the deacon. So that's not an option. But there are a couple of ways that you can get a good guesstimate as to how many hosts you're going to need. The first one is when you arrive and you're opening up the back door, there's a book back there that has the attendance. So check the last 2 or 3 weeks and get an average of how many people have been here. And then during the readings, the usher will go up and do a head count. And so you can either ask the usher or you can check the book again as to how many people are here today. And that way you'll know if you have put enough hosts in. Now, like I said, I think we have about 100 hosts in there right now. I'm going to add 50 more. And so that'll be 150. Now, if we have 200 people here for Mass, after I ask the usher and I find out how many people are here, then I can go back and get some more hosts and bring them out and put them in the ciborium in the back. The key always needs to stay in the tabernacle until after Mass. If you don't have any servers, you'll need to light the candles before Mass. And the lighter is right in this cupboard here. Also, when the Easter candle is out, like for a baptism, you'll need to light that candle before Mass also. Always bow and reverence the altar. Now I like to continue on and go into the copy room to see who's scheduled to help with Mass today. This book will always be out here. It's for people to sign in. And here's the schedule of volunteers that will be helping the different ministries. When you get here, the doors for the office will be open. Before Mass starts, you need to close this door into the copy room and also the other door into the office, just to keep anyone from wandering in here. When Mass is done, and if you are the last person to leave, like the last staff person to leave, make sure that all of the office doors inside the office and the 2 doors leading into the office are closed tight, that the doors into the copy room are closed, and the door that goes from the sacristy into church, make sure that's closed. Now we'll go into the kitchen room and set up for Mass. I mentioned the candles before that go in the stand by Mary. They're in this box right here. So any that are empty, you want to take and put back in the box, because we get a refund for those. And then you just carry out however many candles that you need, and then just put them in the tubes. On this tray are the different vessels that are used. This is a water pitcher, another water pitcher, and this is a pitcher for wine. These are both the same size and they're interchangeable. Here is the bowl for Father to wash his hands in. This is a ciborium. Here is the chalice. And this is the paten that goes on top of the chalice. Father Ben likes to use this chalice, Paul. And then this is a pyx that the sacristan will use to give communion to the music ministers. So we're going to set up today like it would be a normal Mass. In this cupboard are where the hosts are kept. Each one of these sleeves has 100 hosts in it. So today we have about 100 hosts in the ciborium, and so I would say we put out about another 50 more. So the scissors is in the drawer. And what you can do is, you can either eyeball how many 50 would be, about half of that, or you can count them, whatever you choose to do. And then they're put in this ciborium over here. After that, we get the host for Father out of this bowl. And that goes on the patent right there. Next, we'll go over to the fridge and get the wine. The extra wine is kept in this cupboard right here. So if you're pouring the wine and it's almost gone or completely gone, it would be helpful if you took one of these bottles and put it in the fridge. So we only use about 1/4 inch because it's just for Father and Deacon. And then this one, the 2 pitchers, you fill about half full with water. Okay, now we're going to go set them up in church. I need to stop here first and get the linens that are needed. So we have 1 towel. We have 1 corporal. And we have 1 purificator. Now, normally, this tray is very heavy. So normally what I do is I bring out the vessels separately and just, make a trip back and forth. But for ease of filming, I'm putting everything on the tray. At this point, I like to slow down, calm down, and think about what I'm doing. Some of these vessels will be holding the body of Christ, and they need to be treated with reverence. The chalice goes in the center with the cross facing forward. If the purificator has a cross on it, that needs to face down into the chalice. On top of that goes the paten with the host. If Father Ben is here, his chalice pall goes on top. And then corporal goes on top of that. If it's just Father Tom or another priest, then the corporal just sets on there. Here's the bowl for washing hands. And the water pitcher. Then we'll go over to this other credence table. This water will be used when Father or Deacon purifies the vessels after communion. Occasionally, on a special feast day, we will have 2 communion ministers distributing the precious blood of Jesus. And so the setup is just a little bit different then. What you'll need to do is you'll need an extra chalice, and then this small bowl for the communion ministers to cleanse their fingertips when they're done. So the first thing that we'll need to do is you need to pour about 3/4 of a cup of wine at the most. And that goes in the pitcher that will be brought up with the gifts. And then you need to put another 3/4 cup in this chalice. And then this will go on the credence table on the ambo side. I need to stop in here and get the linens that are needed. They're in the top drawer, and when there is a special Mass, when there are 2 communion ministers, we're going to need 2 towels, two purificators, and 1 corporal. We'll put the wine, the chalice right here with the purificator next to it. The water pitcher. And then the bowl that the communion ministers use to purify their fingers. And pour a little bit of water in there. Now we'll take the gifts to the back of church. During the offertory, the ushers will be taking the collection, and the gift bearers will come back and take the gifts up to deacon and father. The wine goes to the person on the left, and they hand it to deacon. The bread goes to the person on the right, and they hand it to father. And have them stay here until deacon and father are standing in front of the altar. Then tell them to just walk up slowly. And after they hand the gifts to deacon and father, have them pause for a few seconds because they will both turn around, and then all four of them can bow together, and then they can go back to their pew. There's a couple other things that I'd like to mention. Janet Wegner and I have talked about this. What's the best time to get here before Mass? We like to get here an hour before. That gives us enough time to set everything up, double check to make sure everything is right, have a few minutes of quiet time with Jesus before everyone starts arriving. If you're trying to set up, too fast or too quickly, and you can get distracted easily then, that's when mistakes are made and things are forgotten. So it's better to, if you're able to, it's better to allow about an hour before Mass to arrive here. Another thing is the sacristan really needs to stay back here the entire Mass. Now, you can sit in one of the chairs in the back row. You could sit in the family room if that's available. I've even sat on the steps here, but it's important to be back here in case something comes up. If an usher has a question, you might have a couple of new ushers that aren't real sure of what they're doing, and so you need to guide them. Other situations can arise. Someone might have a question about something, and you really need to be back here to just kind of oversee what's going on. After Mass, when you bring all the vessels back here, we just wash them in the kitchen sink. There's soap and dish towel and a washcloth. Just wash them, rinse them, dry them. But there's a couple things when we do have the precious blood that we are using. There's a couple things that need to be done differently. Or one thing, the water that the communion ministers dip their fingers into could have either, if they were a bread minister, they could have some host in there, or it could have a wine droplet on their finger, so they need to. So this has to be put down a special drain. Also, after you've given your music ministers their hosts, there could be like little particles left in the picks. So that I will show you where we go with this. So in the copy room, there's a special sink, and this drains right into the ground. It doesn't go into the plumbing at all. And so anything with precious body or blood needs to be dumped down this drain. I like to take out the plug, and so the water gets dumped down. And then I put a little water in the picks. Swirl it around, dump it right down the drain. A little bit more. And then follow it up with a little bit more water.
There will probably be a time when there is a baptism, and usually it's set up ahead of time, but if there's a Saturday Mass and the baptism is on Sunday, then it won't be set up. So you may have to set that up, and so I'll show you what needs to be done with that. Here is the baptismal font. So this will need to be carried out. I'm not going to carry it out right now, but I'll show you where it goes. Carry the pieces separately. The base is very heavy, but it is doable. I'm able to do it. So And then also the baptismal candle needs to come out. And again, I would suggest doing that in 2 pieces. Be very, very careful when you lift up the candle. I hang on to it with one hand. This is quite heavy. So then it goes. If you are careful, very careful, you can lift this up and lean it against the wall. It will stand up. Then carry the base out and then carry the candle out. So the baptismal font goes right in the center of the altar, right here on the edge. And then the baptismal candle goes right here with the numbers facing towards the congregation. The candle needs to be lit before Mass. And before Mass, about 10 minutes before, you need to bring hot water out and put in the baptismal font. The pitchers are in the kitchen, in this cupboard up here. I use 6 pitchers of water, so you just make 3 trips out there. Then when Mass is done, the water has to be taken out. This water can't be just dumped down a drain because it is blessed. So it could either be dumped down the special sink in the other room where that goes right into the ground, or you can take it out the side door and dump it on the grass. And now I want to just pose a couple of scenarios for you, or just ask you a question. Say Mass has started already, and all of a sudden you remember that you forgot to do something really important. What do you do? Well, this happened to me twice, just recently. The first one had to do with the baptismal font. We had a guest priest. Deacon wasn't here. Rose was assisting him. And I had the baptismal font out there, but I forgot to put water in it. And it was about 5 minutes into Mass, and all of a sudden I realized there was no water for the baptism. So after a moment's panic, I calmed myself down and I just thought, when is the best time to put the water in the baptismal font? So I thought about it and I figured right after the priest was done doing the homily. So in this instance, I didn't want to make multiple trips out there, so I just filled 2 pitchers with hot water and I stood in the sacristy and waited until he was done speaking, and then I just quietly opened the door and slowly went out and just dumped the water in the baptismal font like this was totally normal, came back and quietly closed the door. No one knew the difference. I mean, I did, but no one else knew the difference. Another thing that happened once, and this might have been at Easter time, we had Deacon was going to use was going to incense everything. And I had it all out there set up, and I will show you what that is. But I forgot to light the incense. Well, he was going to do this before he read the gospel. What do? Again, moment's panic. But then I thought, okay, I need to fix this. So I just thought, well, between the readings would probably be the best time to go out there and nonchalantly just light the incense. And so that's what I did when the lector was done with her first reading and she went to sit down. I just quietly went out there and lit the incense and just came back in here like, this was normal. It actually worked out really well because the incense then lasted all through Mass, whereas otherwise it would have gone out before then. But what I'm saying is, if all of a sudden you realize that you forgot to do something that's really important, just keep yourself calm and think about it. How and when should you best fix the problem? And you'll be able to, but you just need to stay calm. And like Lynn would always say, if you make a mistake, just act like you didn't. Correct the mistake, but just don't act like you made a mistake. So in this cupboard right behind the door, we have the sprinkling bowls for when Father, like after a baptism, Father will sprinkle everyone with this is where the bowls are. And sometimes they'll use the bells. They're in this cupboard. here is another sprinkling bucket that is used, so sometimes that might be used. Most of the time, all of these extra things will be put out, and so you don't have to worry about it. But just in case somebody has an idea right at the last minute, you can find everything in here. Here are the candle snuffers that are used to put out the candles. Here also is the stand for incense. There's a little trick to doing this that I think it was Father Jason showed me how to do it. You hook the bottom part, then you hook the chain over the hook, and then it sits just like that. In this cupboard are the supplies that you'll need for incense. Deacon will put, there's a small black charcoal-like disc that goes in the incenser here. And then in this little bowl, there is the accelerant that is sprinkled on right before he starts incensing. Before Mass starts, he will ask you to light the incense in the bowl here, and you just use a lighter like this to light it. Takes a little bit to, you have to hold it on there for 5-10 seconds, and you'll see it start to spark and ignite. Also in this cupboard are the picks, which you will need. One of the things that the sacristan does now is give communion to the music ministers after communion is done. So I will show you how that is done. So if you're just a sacristan, you would come up in the communion line with everyone else, and you would ask the deacon or the priest for the number of hosts that you need for the music ministers. They would put them in the picks, and then you would just go and sit down on one of those chairs, and then when deacon is all done cleansing the vessels after communion, and he goes and sits down, then the musicians will stop playing, and then you can get up and go over to them and just give them communion. If you are a communion minister also, and sacristan, you would, when you're finished with, at some point when you get your own communion, you would ask for communion for the musicians, keep it in your pocket or set it on the credence table over there. And then when you're all done with communion, you would take your picks and sit down on the chair, and again, just wait until deacon is done cleansing the vessels. In this drawer are the bags that the ushers will use to put the collection in. If the ushers are unable to take care of the collection, or if there's only one usher and they need someone else to help, we always need 2 people to handle the money. So you would be here while they put the money in the bag. You would sign your name on the bag, and then it goes into the office in the safe, and the ushers know where that is. That's a reminder to the ushers too, or you should remind the ushers that they always need 2 people to handle the money all the way to the safe, and then just for everyone's safety. Second drawer has the microphones for deacon and for father. Normally they're out ahead of time, but just in case they're not, you can put those out. They know how to check to see if the batteries are working. Down here are reserve signs. Those you will probably be asked at some point to put out. So there's quite a few in here. And that's miscellaneous. In this cupboard here are the elves for the servers. And here are the chasubles for the priests. In this cupboard here, we have the extra vessels for communion. So if you happen for a special mass, if you happen to need an extra bowl or an extra chalice, this is where you'd find them. Also in this cupboard, right on this nail, right inside the door here, is the key that is used for the tabernacle. And I will go out now and show you how that fits in. at the end of Mass, always remember to put the key back in the cupboard. These are the different linens that are, so the stole that the priest uses for around his neck. Down here are table linens. But again, this isn't something that you'll have to do, but just in case someone would happen to, ask for it, you will know where it is. Most times you will be the last person to leave, or one of the last people, and so you'll need to lock up this door because the ushers probably won't lock it. There's Sunday Masses, and for the Saturday evening Masses, the door will always be locked. So I'm going to show you how to do it because it's a little different than the other lock. The key is over here, and to lock the door, this is what we do. And now the door is locked. Now if you have to unlock it, so the door would be in the lock position, you first put the key in, turn it, then push it in, and remove the key. And then the key goes back up on the bulletin board. Part of your job as sacristan is to make sure that all of the ministers are here. So that would be ushers, communion ministers, lectors, servers. If you find it's getting close to Mass and someone isn't here, the first thing that you would do is just go out and scan the congregation and see if there's anyone that you know of that could be an usher or whatever position is vacant. The next thing would be to mention it to deacon that your lector isn't here yet. And then he will take over as lector if the lector doesn't show up. As far as communion minister or usher, you can always fill in one of those roles. I would suggest that you get, you become trained to be a communion minister or an usher, very simple roles, both of them. But always let deacon know what's going on. If you have any questions, if you don't understand something, if you don't know where something is, just ask him. He will be more than happy to help you. A lot of years ago, Sister asked me to talk about the duties of a sacristan. And I described the sacristan as kind of like the behind-the-scenes director of a most wonderful production. And that's what the sacristan does. They do everything either before Mass, after Mass, keep an eye on things during Mass, make sure that all the ministers are here and ready to work. If they have any questions, you're there to answer them. Another way to look at a sacristan is as a hostess or a host of a party or a gathering. And you want to welcome all your guests, you want to make your guests feel comfortable, you want to make sure that they have everything that they need. And so that's another way of looking at sacristan.